This is Arnie Blake for True Crime. Guess what? You gotta get involved. Police are still seeking public assistance in the search for a missing Green Bay woman, Ivonne Rickman, known as Bonnie. Since she's been missing almost 2 years, there's every reason to suspect foul play. Police say that Ronald Rickman, Bonnie's husband, was the last person to see his wife alive. Rickman therefore became a prime suspect in what remains an open investigation by the Green Bay police. Guess what? You gotta get involved.
Hey, who's got the address?
Welcome to another episode of All Nostalgic Television, and welcome to the secret hidden underground ant cave along with the Wayback Time Machine. I'm your television jockey, Doug Heim. Well, this episode is all about a true nostalgic television icon, a guy that first appeared on television in 1971 on WLUK TV-11 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. His name is Glen Loyd. Glen's been on TV stations all over the country and on every TV station in Wisconsin. He's a highly awarded investigative journalist that has been called a sledgehammer and a bulldozer when it comes to consumer protection. He's also been called an absolute gentleman and a hero. And he's done some pretty historic things, from helping convict a murderer, exposing the hazards of air pollution, asbestos, and exposing rip-off con artists. And you are about to meet Glen right here in the ant cave. So let's get things started with the first clue to this episode's mystery picture. And to do that, we'll have to travel back to 1978. You are looking at a 1978 extreme close-up of something, but what? See if you can figure out what it is. I'll slowly zoom out and give you clues throughout the episode, and I'll give you the answer at the end. You are looking at an invention that was awarded a patent on April 2nd, 1935. It's a simple hand-operated device. It's something commonly made of stainless steel, chrome-plated stainless steel, or nickel-plated stainless steel. It's built for longevity, with some lasting for generations. You probably own one. More clues coming later. Well, believe it or not, Green Bay Television once actually played a significant role in getting a murder conviction in a landmark legal case. And it all happened in Green Bay, Wisconsin. The ensuing landmark murder case set new precedents in the legal system. It was the first murder conviction ever made without a body, murder weapon, or a witness. On August 14th, 1981, this Green Bay woman, Ivonne Rickman, Vonnie as her friends and family called her, vanishes after a shopping trip to a Kmart store in Appleton, Wisconsin, with her husband Ronald Rickman at the helm. Ron claimed that on their way home, Vonnie grabbed 2 packed sports bags and jumped out of the car while sitting at a stoplight at the corner of College Avenue and State Street. Ron also claimed that Vonnie told him she loves him and she needed to get her head on straight. When the light turns green, Rickman drives off and never sees her again. End of story? I don't think so. And neither did Vonnie's older sister. In August of 1981, Vonnie was only 48 years old, and to this day, Vonnie is still missing. So do you believe Vonnie simply got out of a car and left to go get her head on straight? She not only left her husband, she left her 7-year-old daughter and her big sister behind. 2 people she was in contact with literally every single day. Vonnie's older sister Corinne Kazmarek lived right across the street from Vonnie in a West Side Green Bay neighborhood. Corinne knew Vonnie would never leave her daughter behind. So, in August of 1981, Vonnie's sister begins what will become a 9-year-long relentless pursuit of justice to solve the mystery surrounding Vonnie's disappearance. When Corinne starts digging up Rickman's past, she discovers a damning trail of secrets. There's no body, no eyewitness, not even a murder weapon, but yet she was able to build a convincing case of murder against Rickman. And like I said, it was a 9-year-long quest. And like I said, Green Bay Television played a role in the conviction. How is that possible? Well, back in the day, there was this guy on Green Bay Television News.
If you have a problem, write to me, Glen Loyd, at Box 77.
I'm Glen Loyd.
In a moment, you are about to meet Glen Loyd himself right here in the Ant Cave. And as I mentioned earlier, Glen is a true nostalgic television icon. Glen has been sued 6 times for millions of dollars because of things he exposed to the public.
City Hall runs the Fix Up program and is supposed to see that the deserving families aren't ripped off.
This is mold on here.
No, it's not.
Your wife,
That is
not
not mold.
All you have to do is take this off, turn the car over, and put a sample in a little jug for me, and I can have it tested. Let's do that right now.
Glen won the Columbia DuPont Award for investigative reporting, an award among journalism's highest honors. In 2005, at age 65, Glen was voted into the Wisconsin Broadcasters Hall of Fame. To help me introduce this incredible man and his amazing career, here is a Wisconsin Broadcasters Association's 7-minute video that'll give you a pretty good idea who Glen Loyd is.
When Glen feels there's been an injustice done, he becomes an immovable object.
You're greedy if you're trying to get $140 from all of these people. You want too much money from these people.
He got the work done. He tackled the problem. He went in boots and shoes and got whatever was done properly. And he did it in a very gentlemanly way.
Excuse me, you're not going to sell that stuff, are you? You're wiping the mold off of those things.
No, I'm wiping the mold off the ones that's no good.
This stuff is good as gold.
I'm
going to show you something.
This is mold on here.
No, it's not.
You're wiping.
That is
not mold.
There was no nuance to Glen. There was no subtlety. Glen, he was a sledgehammer.
Well, I'll give you all the information you need off camera. Otherwise, I have no
All right,
comment.
let's go. I want to
Off
see
camera.
it. That's fine. Let's go.
He was a nightmare for the sales department, for the general manager,
Such a gentleman, first of all.
He was a block of granite.
a journalist.
When you've been a print journalist and then you get into television, it's just, you can just tell a story so well, I mean, with a camera, and you start to write differently, and you get people's emotions, and you know, they're crying, they're happy, they're frustrated.
What do you think of that? What do you think of being charged?
$40 that was in here, I wouldn't be here right now.
And I've always been interested in consumer protection issues, but it motivates people. People are very incensed when they get ripped off.
When people call down there, you don't tell them that information on the phone.
This lady said she called you and asked you to call her a liar.
So they make great stories, and in helping one person, you help thousands of other people.
From the day he walked into Channel 11, having no television news experience whatsoever, he picked up the microphone and went after people.
Well, it's gas in there, man. I can smell that. That's gas. You said you had alcohol in there.
Yes, I do.
And, he never changed. He never became polished. He never became sophisticated. He never became pretty.
You have a problem? Write to me, Glen Loyd, at box 77.
He was just a bulldozer.
Most people, if they confront a problem, they'll ask, you know, why is the problem? Glen's stock answer was always how and when do we fix it?
It smells horrible in Green Bay today.
One of the stories that I really remember about Glen is that he took the 7 biggest employers in Green Bay to court and over environmental concerns. Glen was advocating for people in town who were complaining that they were having trouble breathing the air.
And this was in the early 70s, and at that time, Green Bay really smelled bad. The DNR had a law that you could use back then, and you could file a number of polluters. So I personally sued 6 major polluters in Green Bay, a couple meatpacking plants, several paper companies, and it was called the stench hearings.
And I was there the day that Glen walked into court with his one little lawyer and walked into a court that was where these 7 big corporations were with maybe 24 expensively suited lawyers, and Glen faced them all down and won a consent decree from each of them to cut their air emissions and improve the air quality in Green Bay. I was astounded. I was terrified and in awe. I mean, he made me a stronger man just by his resolve.
When I find somebody that's ripping off the public, I want people to see them. So I've always taken the camera out and given them the opportunity to give their side of the story, but have confronted them and confront them on everything that you know.
But how can you say that when the spill is on the ground there? What is that spill? You don't know.
And often that is very revealing. It can be dangerous too, but it's often very revealing.
People in Green Bay could depend on Glen Loyd to solve the problem, to help them solve their problems, to get at the crux of what the problem was, and then find a way to solve it. He was amazing. He got right on it, started asking questions, found out what was going on, contacted any authorities that needed to be contacted. I don't know where we'd have gone. There are other people that solve problems around, but I think the public needed to be involved in this or to be aware of this. And I knew that he had solved problems. I knew that he had the resources to do things, and he did it. And it was kind of like having our own little 60 Minutes right here in Green Bay.
He was their champion. He was, I think our viewers really felt that Glen stood for them. Glen had a huge heart, and yeah, I think any number of times he would see a story in which somebody was really hurting or in need, and you know, he was just single-minded. When he locked onto something, there was just absolutely no letting go until he met that need.
This is the best thing I ever done in my whole life.
You can't have an investigative story every night, so I did a lot of human interest stories to fill in. There's such wonderful stories to tell on television that you really get addicted to it.
I just think Glen is one of a kind. You know, he stands out as, I think, an icon for just courageous, straightforward journalism. Advocacy journalism, certainly, but just a courageous, unvarnished integrity. I think that he stands out among all Wisconsin broadcasters for that.
And here you are, Glen Loyd, in the ant cave. Do you have any idea how honored I am to have you here?
Well, you know, thank you so much for inviting me. I appreciate it. And it's fun to see what the Bat Cave looks like, you know, expanded. I get an expanded view here.
Yes,
and
you do.
It's fun.
where and when were you born?
1939, and I was born in Des Moines, Iowa. My dad was a journalist, and we moved to Milwaukee. He was with the Associated Press there, and then he got a job with the government, with the Soil Conservation Service in Portland, Oregon, but they wanted him in Washington, D.C., so we moved to Washington, D.C.
After moving to Washington, D.C. at age 16, Glen stood in line for 2 days and 2 nights to win a bargain, a car for only 46 cents. It was Glen's first car and his first claim to fame.
And I ended up on George Washington's birthday getting a 1946 Buick convertible, and my picture was on the front page of a Washington newspaper. That was my first taste of fame.
Glen's brother Pat was also showing signs of what he would become.
My older brother Pat was one of those kids that he was always right about everything. And my younger brother and I, we always thought that, you know, he can't always be right, can he? What's he talking about? And he invented a breast pump. And most breast pumps didn't work very well then, but his did. And he invented the pump and invented some other things, and was an inventor all of his life and made a lot of money.
Your brother did this?
Yeah, my brother did this. He knew what he was talking about. We just didn't believe him.
Don't believe it? Well, here it is. The Lloyd breast pump. U.S. patent number 3,782,385. Awarded to Patrick V. Lloyd, Sr. on January 1st, 1974. A patent he held for 17 years, and the breast pumps sold all over the world. Pat Lloyd also had the original idea of how to make universally formed potato chips, which became to be known as Pringle potato chips. Glen also had a younger brother, Myron, who became a country lawyer, and a younger sister, Nancy.
And I have a sister who is a teacher. My mother, she went to college when she was 15 years old. She was an advanced student.
That's pretty young.
Yeah, I have a picture of her holding her books, you know, when she was 15. She had 5 children. And after her kids, you know, were old enough, she got a job, and she was a scientific editor. So that's my family, and I'm very proud of them.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, in journalism.
After graduating from high school in 1957, Glen earned his tuition by working at High's Ice Cream on Half Street in Washington, D.C. Then, in 1959, Glen enters Montgomery Junior College in Montgomery County, Maryland.
You know, the first 2 years were rough because you had, you know, language and physics and...
What made you choose journalism?
My dad was a writer. I liked the way that he was writing things. It was exciting. So I wanted to be a journalist.
Less than 3 years later, in spring of 1962, Glen graduates with an Associates of Arts degree. One college instructor wrote, of all his students, Glen was the most likely to succeed as a writer. 1962 was also the year Glen spent 6 months in active duty in U.S. Army Basic and Advanced Infantry training. Glen will also go on to spend 5.5 years in the Army National Guard Ready Reserve. Meanwhile, in 1962, Glen moves to Illinois and starts attending classes at Southern Illinois University. While there, Glen meets the love of his life, Christine Grace, and in 1964, they get married in Chicago. It was also the same year Glen was named the 1964 Outstanding Male Graduate in Journalism. The following year, Glen was even the model featured on the cover of the university's pamphlet on journalism graduates.
When I graduated from college, I got a job almost immediately on Michigan Avenue in Chicago, working for a magazine that had a circulation of 800,000.
That was the Lion magazine. A few years later, Glen became associate editor of Today's Health magazine, published by the American Medical Association, and began his investigative reporting.
So I developed the habit of always relying on myself to come up with stories. I did a lot of stories on harmful things that could harm people. They were building all kinds of skyscrapers, and I could see them spraying stuff on the steel girders, and it was coming down like snow. It was insulation for the girders, so the girders would not bend if there was a fire. Well, I was way back then when people didn't know about asbestos, and I was one of the first reporters who reported on asbestos. And as a result of my stories in the American Medical Association Today's Health magazine, the city of Chicago banned sprayed asbestos. And right about that time, all the big magazines were going under. WLUK magazine, Life magazine, and I figured I was in the wrong business. I figured I should get into television.
The year was 1971. Tom Hutchinson, along with Tom Turinas of WLUK TV, were starting up a brand new news department when they discovered Glen Loyd.
When you got hired to work at WLUK TV-11 in Green Bay when they were starting the news department,
yeah,
what was your job?
Tom Hutchinson wanted me to be the contact action reporter, and we started asking for problems of community interest that I would look into. And that's where a lot of the big investigations started.
TV-11's first newscast was launched in July of 1971. In addition to Glen Loyd, other anchors included Bob Schultz, Al Sampson, Ray Wheeler, and Stanley Siegel.
You know, there's a common denominator between you and me. Stanley Siegel, you probably knew him better than most people in Green Bay, really. But with you and me, it's different. We have a common denominator. Stanley Siegel liked us, and he liked to help you, and he liked to help me. Because when you started your radio station in the back of your
in the basement,
your car, or wherever it was, he cut all of these IDs for you.
Yes, he did.
He said, "This is Stanley Siegel, and anything you do, it was Stanley Siegel introducing it." And he liked to do that because he liked you. And he thought, well, look at this 7-year-old kid, he's got his own radio station. And so Stanley liked you, and he helped you. And yes, it was at some risk because...
Oh, yeah, because I was illegal. I got to mention that. I was a 17-year-old kid. I couldn't get a job at a local radio station because I had that teenage voice, you know. I wasn't mature, a radio announcer voice. So I was, well, if I can't get a job at a radio station, I'll make my own. And
you know, it was the same situation with me. I'd come up from Chicago, where I was, you know, like 31, and had a successful career. But when I got up to Green Bay, I didn't know anything about television. I couldn't pronounce any of the Shano and Oconomowoc and things. I couldn't pronounce those things. They wanted me to be a weekend anchorman. Well, as I say, I was mispronouncing everything, and they wanted me to do the weather. And I said it was going to be nice, and it rained. But on Monday, the news director came in and told me, he says, "Glen, we're going to break it to me gently." He says, I don't think we want you to be an anchorman quite yet. You stick to your investigative reporting," which I did do. And then I met Stanley, and he was having the governor of Wisconsin come up for an interview, and I was doing a story where it would be very helpful if I could interview the governor too. And I said, "Stanley, I know you've got the governor coming up. You know, would you please let me interview him?" And, you know, I was asking him. We were both the same age. And he said, "Yes, but I'm not going to let you do it until you spit out your gum." And he schoolmarmed me. He got a piece of paper, and this was in front of the whole newsroom. and made me spit out my gum.
Wow.
In front of everyone.
Oh.
And so he made a joke out of it. But from that moment on, when he helped me, he continued to help me for the rest of my career. And I was on set with him, and I was kind of stiff, and I wasn't a natural anchorman. But Stanley would make me laugh and humanize me. He would always introduce me with a comical introduction, like he called me Boston Blackie, or he'd make up names. It would get me laughing and make me more human. Stanley had sex appeal, and he used to, when he was at Channel 11, there were women that would call him up and want to get together with him. That's as much as I can say. So he helped me, and then he left. He was leaving Green Bay because they fired him, and I helped him on the story, which resulted in him getting fired. When he did the Jell-O, he got into a wetsuit and went to the bottom of the Jell-O mold and said what it was like.
Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, man makes history. A voyage to the bottom of the world's largest Jell-O dessert. That's one step for man, one giant step for mankind. The Action Man is of great assistance. Chef Rudy Rose of the famous Biloti's Farm in Green Bay has prepared 44 gallons of lemon Jell-O. And a television first. Man speaks from a Jell-O dessert.
This is Stanley Siegel on special assignment at the bottom of the largest Jell-O mold in the continental United States. That does not include Canada. We understand there's a tremendous Jell-O mold up there in Winnipeg. Many people ask, why put your body at the bottom of the world's largest Jell-O mold? And I say to them, it's none of their business. Let me extricate myself. It's somewhat under with my mask.
I want you to know, ladies and gentlemen, that if I live to be 120, I'll never do this again. Well, friends, there it is. That's my message, my hard-hitting message for you. Thank you very much. That got me fired off that job, friends. It really did. Like see, I was the newsman, and they felt that destroyed the credibility of being in the news, if you understand what I mean.
But anyway, I helped him with that story, and then he learned that he was fired right after. But that's the common denominator that we had with Stanley Siegel.
So when you came to Green Bay, one of the first things you noticed was the stench.
And also the air pollution. Remember a long time ago in downtown Green Bay, again, it was like the asbestos in Chicago. The particulate matter coming from the paper mills, it would come down like snow too. And you had to brush it off your shoulders. So that was a sign of air pollution in Green Bay.
It smells horrible in Green Bay today, and that's why I'm here. This is a story about the smoke and the stench in northeastern Wisconsin.
Glen Loyd, a relative pygmy among the corporate giants, but through the smokescreen he went after 8 companies in a class action suit. He made them scrub their air. He calls his stench war his greatest accomplishment in Green Bay.
I think it helped tone down the stench a little bit. I understand that there still stinks in Green Bay.
But not as much as it did before. Glen's friends may teasingly call him bullheaded. His enemies prefer pig-headed.
So I personally sued the major polluters in town. But I was in trouble. Fortunately, I got a call from a guy, his name is Victor Yannicone, the foremost environmental lawyer in the United States. He got DDT banned.
Attorney Victor Yannicone, quoted for saying, if a corporation wants all the rights and privileges of a human being under the law, then by God, it shouldn't give us any waste other than what human beings naturally produce.
going to get run over by attorneys. And when the hearing came time, there were, you know, like 12 attorneys. And there was me and my attorney, Victor Yannicone, and he took them all on. And it was my attorney against
all these guys
yeah.
taking on the big wigs, and
Yeah.
you won. That is an incredible story.
I would like to get a sample of that and test what you have in the tank.
There's no way to get a sample.
All you have to do is take this off, turn the car over, and put a sample in a little jug for me, and I can have it tested. Let's do that right now.
Yeah, I asked him to show me what was in that carburetor, you know, show me the water. And he said, well, that'd be kind of hard to do. I don't have my tools with me, or something like that. There's some danger along with that too.
I was going to bring that up because another story that I've seen is someone trying to sell moldy fruit, and they got these big knives that they're cutting the fruit with.
That guy scared me to death. And he said, I'll show you. And he picks up one of these moldy grapefruits and cuts it.
Excuse me, you're not going to sell that stuff, are you? You're wiping the mold off of those things.
No, I'm wiping the mold off the ones that's no good.
This stuff is good as gold.
Here,
I'm going to show you something.
This is mold on here.
No, it's not.
That is
not mold.
And, you know, the knife was real sharp. And I'm thinking, what the heck am I doing, arguing with this guy, and he's got a knife in his hand?
I'm Glen Loyd. I've been a journalist since 1964 when I graduated from Southern Illinois University. I was voted Sigma Delta Chi's Outstanding Male Graduate. Before getting into television 6 years ago, I was a magazine journalist in Chicago and also a newspaper reporter. I've had articles published in the Chicago Daily News and Today's Health. My first year in television, I won the Spot News Award for UPI in Wisconsin. Since then, I've specialized in investigative reporting, human interest stories, and helping people stories. Let me show you some examples.
It's time for another clue to this episode's mystery picture. This is a 1978 extreme close-up of an invention that was awarded a patent on April 2nd, 1935. It's commonly made of stainless steel. It's a simple hand-operated utensil consisting mainly of the barrel and a single tooth or bit to punch or pierce a hole at one end, and a cylindrical, rounded and blunt end at the other that is used for prying. And it's built strong enough to remain functional for decades, with some vintage models still in use today. You probably own one. More clues and the answer coming later. Glenn, in 1975 you left TV-11. Where did you go from there?
I went to KDFW in Dallas, Texas. I was the Action 4 reporter there.
Why'd you leave TV-11?
I was a young man, and I would love to have major market experience. So KDFW was a CBS affiliate in Dallas, Texas, major market. And they wanted me, and they wanted to feature me.
You shook up the Dallas City manager. Dallas City Hall was running a federal government program giving loan money to fix up homes in declining neighborhoods, and you exposed that it had turned into some welfare program for substandard contractors?
Yeah, this is a program run by the city of Dallas, and they used black contractors to fix up black neighborhoods. They didn't want people to get ripped off, so I had this special group of black contractors that would help. I was starting to get complaints from all the consumers that were in this program. They were getting ripped off. So I started doing stories, and I'd go out to these homes, and you know, they would say, yeah, they were supposed to fix the roof, but the ceiling caved in on me. And all these other bad things happened. So I did a series of stories, and the city of Dallas removed the bureaucrat that was in charge of the program. And that story won Associated Press Awards in Texas, and it was later entered into the Columbia DuPont Award, and which I won for investigative reporting.
While you were living in Dallas, you were getting around in a small little VW, right?
Yeah.
What was it really like living in Dallas, Texas?
Of course, it was very hot, and we drove in there in a Volkswagen Bug, and it had no air conditioning, and so that was a little tough.
While in Texas, Glen resides with his wife Christine in a humble suburb home along with their daughter Christine Elizabeth and son Francis Glennon III.
Every day after work, I'd be driving past the school book depository where President Kennedy was shot, but it wasn't like TV-11. In TV-11, we had young people who were just getting into the business, and everybody helped each other, and it was a feeling, it was fun. And the photographers that we had at KDFW were nowhere near the quality of the TV-11 photographers. In Dallas, the photographers hardly ever took a tripod, and you'd go out to do a story, and the photographer would get in a doorway and lean up against the doorway. And of course, the video was always, always like that. So there was a big difference. TV-11 was a better station, and it was more fun, I can tell you that.
You had an opportunity to work at WFAA TV-8, and they were the highest rated news station in Dallas at the time.
Yeah.
And you turned it down to come to Green Bay.
Well, I've done what I wanted to do. I'm in a major market, but Green Bay is a better place to live. TV-11 is a better place to work. So I called up TV-11 and said, I'm coming back. I didn't ask them. I said, I'm coming back. And they said, Hutch welcomed me back.
In 1979, Glen returns to WLUK TV-11 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And TV-11 has a new news helicopter, Sky Scoop. And once again, Glen is receiving hundreds of letters seeking his help. But one was really special. Unlike Glen's usual investigative issues, Glen receives a letter from a dying little boy named Stevie, whose final wish is to experience a ride in a helicopter.
That was really something.
How did he reach you?
Oh, he wrote me a letter. Most of the stories that I did resulted from letters that people wrote. At that time, all the TV stations had helicopter pilots. And at TV-11, we had a guy that was a Vietnam vet. And he was used to landing this helicopter all kinds of different places.
That was Louis.
Yeah, Lloyd. And he said, let's go pick him up at his school. So he flew his helicopter over to his school and landed in the schoolyard. And his schoolmates were over at Bay Beach Park. So we get in the helicopter, and I'm kind of holding them. And we fly over to Bay Beach, and there were his kids, his playmates and schoolmates. And they see him up there, and they start waving to him. And we land, and they come over. He was pretty sick and couldn't move. I was holding him. So they came over, and he started naming all the kids.
Before my surgery, my mama said that before I die too soon, wouldn't you want to do something? And I said, yeah, I'd want to go on a helicopter ride. I liked when we took off and landed and went around in circles. We went over by Bay Beach, and I phoned my couple of classes in my class, and
Your classmates were over there.
yeah. Come back, Baby, come back! I didn't think they'd be jumping up and down and everything like that.
Did you see some of your friends there?
Yeah.
What were their names that you saw?
Lucky and Todd, Katina, and she's a girl, but I thought I'd never have a helicopter ride, but I have to believe it because I just had one.
You happy?
Yeah. Just the best thing I ever done in my whole life.
And then, you know, a couple weeks later, he passed away. One time, Tom Hutchison said that Glen Loyd's lawyer bills add up to more than I pay my entire newsroom. He was an advocate for me, but he knew I was pretty costly. Well, Tom Hutchison left TV-11. The new general manager was from the advertising department of the corporation. He didn't want me. Can I call up the news director over at Channel 5? And he said, yeah, we'd love to have you. I immediately went to Channel 5. They had some real good reporters there, and Roy Wilk was a brave news director. Let me do what I needed to do.
Then one day, while Glen was editing a news story at Channel 5, he got an unexpected visit from this woman, Corinne Kazmarek.
As I usually do at a television station, I eat my lunch in the editing booth while I'm editing my story for the day. And so the door was closed, and a woman knocks on the door and just opened the door. And she says, I've got something important to tell you. And I said, well, I'm having my lunch right now, and I'm editing this story on deadline. You know, can you just wait, or let's make an appointment? And she said, okay, and she gave up and closed the door. And 5 minutes later, she came back and said, this can't wait. So I said, I came out and sat down and listened to her. And she said that her sister, Ivonne Rickman, had disappeared. And she suspected her husband, Ron Rickman. Rickman said that they had gone down to Appleton, and they had a disagreement about something, and she just stormed off and didn't come back to the car and disappeared. Her relatives went to the police because they suspected him, and the police weren't buying what she said. That's when she came to me, and there was a rumor that Rickman had actually killed somebody, was a killer. You know, but there wasn't any proof. How could he be a killer and be out? He was from the Stevens Point area before he came to Green Bay. So I told Corinne, go to the local library there and have the librarians help you and research his name and see if you could come up with anything. A few weeks later, she came back and she handed me a newspaper clipping, and it said that Ron Rickman had killed 2 hunters. He wasn't convicted of murder, he was sentenced to a mental institution. But it was enough that I could go to the people at Channel 5 where I worked and get them to commit to doing a story. It was a risky story, but with that newspaper clipping, why was this guy who had been in an insane asylum, what was he doing loose? Well, a reporter, his name was Pat Doris, found out that the parole department had lost track of Ron Rickman.
Didn't know where he was.
No. And so they put him in jail for violation of parole. And eventually they charged him with murder. And his wife was never found. an interesting follow-up. I put the story in my memoir, and the daughter of one of the hunters that was killed by Rickman in Portage County wrote to me and said, I'm glad you told this story, because, they made a movie.
The story of Ivonne Rickman's disappearance was dramatized in the 1994 made-for-TV movie, The Disappearance of Vonnie. In the movie, Kim Zimmer plays the role of Ivonne Rickman.
I know what to do. It's Horace here that doesn't seem to get it.
Joe Penny plays Ron Rickman.
Hi.
And Ann Julian plays the role of Corinne Kizmarek.
You said Vonnie took 2 suitcases. She didn't. All the clothes are here.
Corinne, you don't know every piece of clothing that Vonnie owns.
Yes, I do.
And finally, Dave Cameron. He plays Glen Loyd. But in the movie, Glen's character is portrayed as Arnie Blake.
This is Arnie Blake for True Crime. Guess what? You got to get involved.
All that stories that I told you about her coming in to the editing room, that was just exactly the way that it happened.
Here now is the scene from the movie when Corinne interrupts Glen's editing session.
This is Arnie Blake for True Crime. Guess what? You got to get involved. Good. Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Blake.
Yeah?
I don't mean to disturb you, but I'd like to talk to you for...
I'm having my lunch. Can it wait?
Yes, of course, I'm sorry. No, I'll lose my nerve. Just 5 seconds of your time.
All right.
What if I told you that a woman who lived here in Green Bay, whose whole life revolved around her 7-year-old daughter, took a day trip with her husband, who 20 years ago shot and killed 2 men in cold blood, and this woman has never been seen again? Would you do the story on your show?
Come on in.
My involvement up to the time of discovering that newspaper story was me to a T. I would normally say on television, if you have a problem with community interest, write to me, Glen Loyd. They just changed that to you got to get involved.
Thanks to Glen getting involved, in 1991, Ronald Rickman was convicted in Brown County, Wisconsin for the 1981 murder of Ivonne Rickman and sentenced to life. Ron later dies of heart failure in 2004 while serving his sentences. To this very day, Vonnie's body has never been found. It's time for another clue to this episode's mystery picture. Here is what we know so far. It was invented in 1935. It's a hand-operated utensil. It's made of stainless steel and lasts for decades. One end of the device has a single tooth that punches a hole while the other end is used for prying. And you probably own one. Here are some more clues. The single tooth or bit punches a triangular-shaped hole, and the handheld device resembles old, large, ornate keys used to open church doors. The answer's coming up.
When you left Channel 5, where'd you go?
I ran for the state assembly, and I lost by 55 votes.
After 20 years on television, in 1991, after losing a bid for the state assembly, Glen was encouraged by the state governor to become the spokesperson for the Wisconsin Consumer Protection Agency, a position Glen will hold for 18 years.
My job was to come up with stories, and it didn't necessarily have to be the ones that our investigators were working on. They were good stories, and they were big stories.
When you say a story, was it a news story for television, radio, print?
Yeah, all of those things. In fact, we had the rip-off of the month. They adopted it. I suggested it, and we did it.
Glen's boss backed the rip-off idea all the way.
I was doing basically what I did as a television reporter, but now it was on all the stations.
Glen received a lot of press coverage with one of his greatest accomplishments with the Wisconsin State Consumer Reporting. Questionable salesmen from out of state would host get-rich-quick seminars at various hotels, and Glen was there to warn potential victims.
When you go to a business opportunity in a hotel room, be aware that they're going to move out of the hotel and you're not going to be able to find them again.
The Wisconsin Department of Consumer Protection has been warning people about unscrupulous businesses, but now they're taking a new approach, one that goes right to where the problems begin. CBS 58's Rob Hayes explains.
It's a seminar on home-based businesses. A Utah company, the Home Business Group, sent out these letters to area residents promising them over $1,000 worth of free software and materials just for showing up. But just outside the front entrance,
we think it's a questionable business opportunity.
Workers from the Wisconsin Consumer Protection Bureau,
we have some information that you should know about this company before you go in.
Were busy warning people about the seminar.
The Better Business Bureau in Utah, where the company is located, says that the company has an unsatisfactory business practice records. Here in Wisconsin, the Wisconsin Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection has 3 complaints.
People that are coming in have already been harassed enough, so.
We talked with one of the seminar organizers. He says the Home Business Group is legitimate and has relatively few complaints against it.
Do you have an unsatisfactory ranking in Utah?
I don't know. It would be my guess that according to the Better Business Bureau, we have too many complaints because of the way the Better Business Bureau does business.
The fact that the Department of Consumer Protection is here today marks a change in the way the state is attacking questionable businesses. Instead of waiting for problems to crop up, now they're trying to prevent them in the first place.
But I also think you'd have to admit that a company that sees tens of thousands of people a week, 20 complaints in a year is not very many.
People going into the seminar said they already have a good dose of skepticism about the company, but they say the state's presence here is well worth the effort.
I think that's an excellent way to let the buyer beware and inform them what's going on.
I mean, if you can't stop them from holding the conference, then yeah, get the people out here and get them warned before they even go in there.
We're with the State Consumer Protection Bureau.
This is the 9th time this year consumer protection workers have taken their battle out into the field, and they say it won't be their last. In Milwaukee, Rob Hayes, CBS 58 News.
It creates excitement and big stories, and that was my idea to do it. And so that was my greatest accomplishment, working for the state of Wisconsin.
Glen's stories have also appeared on That's Incredible, Today's Health Magazine, and the National Enquirer. In 2005, at age 65, Glen was voted into the Wisconsin Broadcasters Hall of Fame. Then in 2009, at age 70, Glen decides to retire, or so he thought. That's when Glen got a call from the Janesville Gazette.
The Janesville Gazette asked me to start making videos, and I said I'd like to do some nature videos. I said I don't want to do consumer protection because I've been sued 6 times for millions of dollars, and I always had a TV station, you know, behind me that with lawyers who could help me fight those battles. So I figured that if you did nature stories, that those butterflies and birds and animals, they don't file lawsuits.
That's for sure. At least I hope not. You can also find Glen's videos on YouTube and on Glen Loyd's own Facebook page.
I make videos every week to this day. I've been wanting to do this because I've followed your career, and when you would go out and do your dance machine, My son was at those things.
Really?
Yeah. He met you a couple times, and we'd watch. And so I started following you when you were 17 years old.
That's when I first
You were just
met
a kid.
you. Yes.
I'll tell you one thing. It's interesting. You have a very interesting career, and I suggest to anyone to buy your book.
Oh.
It's a very interesting book, and you hold nothing back. And most people don't do that. When I was writing my memoir, there's a lot of things that I kept out of it.
Yeah.
You left everything in yours, and it's a very powerful book.
Actually, I don't have everything in the book. I didn't put everything in just like you did, but it's enough. Yeah. But thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, Glenn, it's so good. I haven't seen you for over 4 decades. That's the last time I've been in the same room with you.
Yeah.
And it's just such a treasure and a treat to have had this opportunity. And thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You bet.
We made it, didn't we?
We're still going. It's time for the answer to this episode's mystery picture. It's something invented in 1935. It's a stainless steel handheld utensil that punches a triangular-shaped hole and can also be used to pry things open like bottles and paint cans. You probably have one in your kitchen, bar, or toolbox. Are you ready for the answer? It was a church key. Church key is a North American term used to describe can and bottle openers because the tool resembles the old-fashioned large ornate keys used to open church doors. Well, that's going to just about do it for this episode. Before I go, I'd like to thank Glen Loyd for sharing his incredible stories. But there are so many more stories than I could fit into this episode. If you want to learn more about Glen, you can find Glen's memoir online at Glen Loyd On Your Side in Wisconsin. Glen is still making videos, and you can find Glen's videos on Glen Loyd's YouTube channel. Once there, just push the videos button. Or find Glen's videos on his Facebook page and TikTok. Believe it or not, Glen's videos have already been viewed 1.9 million times on YouTube alone. If you haven't seen any of Glen's nature videos, I took snippets from his videos and put together the following. If you keep watching, I'll keep them coming.